think we can get going. Judith, why don't you? So I'd like to introduce Judith Arnold. Judith Arnold is the president of New Jersey Peace Action, and she'd like to say a few words of welcome. Thanks, Judith.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon and welcome, my friends, to the New Jersey Peace Action Annual Fall Peace Gathering coming to you via Zoom this year. And we're so glad that you could join us. A couple of housekeeping notes before we begin, and I'm not going to inform you where the bathrooms are this year as I would normally do. The chat window at the bottom of your screen is open, and we will be utilizing that later on in the program. So hang on and listen for the instructions on that. Any questions you may have for our speaker, Andrew Bacevich, or for the New Jersey Peace Action presenters may be posted in the Q&A window also at the bottom of your screen. Please keep your questions concise and stay on topic, and we will get to as many of them as we can. The members of our Special Events Committee put in a lot of time and effort to make today's presentation happen. And I would like to thank Jeff Hoey, Peggy Monges, Anna Nelson, Don Leach, and Lev and Victoria Pinsky for all they've done to make this happen. And I also would like to recognize Greg Payson and Sherry Race, who are working behind the scenes today, to making all of the technical stuff possible. Now I'm going to hand you back to our Executive Director, Jeff Hoey, and please enjoy your day and our program.
Well, thank you very much, Judith. I appreciate it. And I'm going to just turn a couple of cameras off and take the highlight for a moment, but I'll be back to Andrew and Judith in a moment. Thanks again. So, well, we're joined here today on a day that not a lot of news happening, right? I say that sarcastically. Obviously, there's been some very recent news that I appreciate everyone still making it here for us to join us for this event today. And Andrew will be speaking in a few minutes about his reflections on the news of the day in the last week or so, and probably even beyond that with the world we're living in. I want to thank you all for being here. And again, everybody that made this event possible, our board, our staff, our volunteers, and a special thank you, of course, to Andrew Bacevich for joining us. I can't wait to hear. So I'm going to move quickly as well so we can hear what his perspectives are on recent events. I would like to reflect a little on the year, though. 2020 has obviously been a remarkable year for everyone. A year like no other for so many reasons. Obviously we had number 45 in the White House, and that presented all sorts of challenges for the War and Peace group, environmental groups, everybody. And I think we're all pretty happy about the events of today that may finally end that period in our history, and we can get back to some normalcy. Personally, this year started off on January 6th with open heart surgery. And for 6 months, frankly, that was the highlight of the year, the way this year's gone. Until July, when I have to mention and brag a little that my granddaughter, Savannah James, was born. So it all kind of came around and things finally started looking up. But of course, we've had COVID hanging over all of our heads since February and March, and what that's done to our nation in so many ways, shut us down, made life that much more tenuous for millions of people. And of course, it's the marginalized people that are always hurt by this. It's just so sad, and it's brought up so many issues and so many issues about the cross-pollination of things from one to another. Here we are, the richest country in the world with no healthcare system, no real security, even though we spend $740 billion plus a year on defense. And however, it did, in a very strange way, allowed us to reach many, many more people than we ever have, through webinars, which I'll go into in a minute, and just reaching out to people. I think everyone's been on Zoom calls more often than they would like, but it has been a real opportunity to hear people from all around the world and to have people from all around the world hear us. So, you know, there's a silver lining to many clouds, and that's one that we can look at. Our message is that much wider broadcasted than it ever is. And while I'm sure we're happy with the recent news of today and the results of the presidential election, this is not to put a rain on anyone's parade, but make no mistake, our work is no easier as a peace organization because of the results of this election. Joe Biden has already said our defense budget will probably go up under his administration. The Senate, the majority in the Senate is going to be, best we could probably hope for is a 50-50 tie, which is okay for the Democrats. However, it does mean that any one Democrat, people are going to, when it's that close, there's a lot of what ifs that can enter any type of legislation. So we really still need to be lobbying our representatives, maybe even harder than we ever have. I know that we are going to keep up our high level of activism, no matter who's in the White House, and have been very busy. Throughout the year, we pivoted because of COVID to a series of webinars to reach out to our people, our supporters who have been so great over the years. And we produced webinars on Yemen, which was sanctions. We did one on nuclear weapons. We did a couple on the interconnectivity, the intersection between militarism, climate change, and healthcare. An indication of how we reached out. I mean, normally we would get 20 to 30 people in a room when we did face-to-face meetings. We had over 100 registrants for every single one of those webinars. It was awesome, from all around the world. We are reaching hundreds more than we normally would have, and lots of activism is coming out of that. Our lobby visits were also actually facilitated in some way by this. Earlier in the year, during the high period, and we do a lot of lobby visits, we did over 24 lobby visits on different subject matter with our congressional and Senate staffs, and had over 30 participants on some of those calls. Never before, without the advent of Zoom and using remote dialing into these events, would we have been able to do that kind of thing. It's been certainly very encouraging for everyone to in that regard, at least. Fundraising is trending down a little, and that's true for many nonprofits, and ours is certainly one of those. We run a very tight budget, and as you can see, we are literally busier than ever. Just keep in the back of your mind, someone else may speak to this a little later, but sustaining monthly donations are very important to small nonprofits like ourselves. So please consider that method of supporting us and our issues as we move forward from today, and get back to the hard work of making the world a safer, more sustainable place. There is absolutely wonderful news to report, and I want to end this on a great note. As many of you know, on January 22nd of 2021, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons will enter into force. This is not just a symbolic method, although the symbolism, let's not lose the importance of the symbolism itself. It adds a stigma to nuclear weapons that were never there before. It is symbolic in the fact that people doing the right thing over a good period of time, when you have enough people doing that kind of thing, there can be success. There will be financial and legal repercussions for companies involved in the making of and the maintaining of nuclear weapons. Make no mistake, there will be repercussions from this treaty. Congrats to everyone, many on this call that have worked for decades towards this end. And while we know we have more work to do, let's take a moment and thank everybody and give each other a pat on the back, because it's an awesome moment in time. To that end, New Jersey Peace Action has made our prime campaign, Back from the Brink, the call to prevent nuclear war. We are leading the effort in our region and are being noticed on the national and yes, international level for our work. What we are doing right now is collecting endorsements from organizations generally in the region, North Jersey. So what we're looking for is local organizations that will give us their official endorsements of this 5-point platform. And if anyone is not aware of that, I'll give you some links in the chat window when I get a minute to go over to the website and see what it is. But it's no first use and the sole finger on the trigger kind of thing, and the manufacture and development of new weapons and work towards eliminating them. So we're collecting endorsements from organizations, and then we will move on to going before local governing bodies and getting resolutions from them. And this is an all-in effort to get more people involved in the movement and to make sure that Washington knows there is momentum building against nuclear weapons. We're going to end nuclear weapons in the next couple of decades. I give you my word. I may not be here to show you that word, but we're going to be doing it. There's a campaign. It's a campaign that will test our capacity on both the financial side and on the volunteer capacity side. So we need you folks to let us know that you can help. And that can be as simple as giving someone on the committee, someone on the board, or myself, just the name of an organization or two that you feel will be happy to endorse the Back from the Brink program. So please let us know about that. It's a huge help to us to have that kind of grassroots help. And we know that the people on this call are the core membership and supporters of our group. So if everyone can give me a name of one organization, it'll grow a great way to building momentum for that campaign. I'd like to end by saying that, bottom line, while this year has been a challenge like absolutely no other, New Jersey Peace Action, our volunteers, our board, our staff are busier than ever. And that's a good thing. Not the fact that we have things to work on, but the fact that we have the capacity to take this work on. We will be successful. We will be successful. We'll take the little successes for now, working towards that big success, even if it's a decade or two down the road. We're going to get to the end game, and we're going to end nuclear weapons and the threat of nuclear weapons on Earth. New Jersey Peace Action will be there right up until that point. Thank you all for everything you do every day. It's an honor to be in my position. It's an honor to work with all of you people. I look forward to talking to you all. And now what I'd like to do, thank you again for being here. I'd like to introduce a longtime supporter of New Jersey Peace Action. Nitze, if you could get your camera going again, what I'd like to do is bring Nitze Binder back up on screen. And there's my buddy. Thank you again for Nitze for being here. Nitze is a longtime supporter of New Jersey Peace Action and truly a tireless worker on issues of social justice, peace, war and peace. Besides her position on the board now of New Jersey Peace Action, she's also, I believe, and if I have the titles wrong, I apologize, but coordinator of the local Friends Committee on National Legislation Committee, and does as much, if not more, lobby work than I do. And I couldn't thank you enough for that. But she's a longtime friend of New Jersey Peace Action, and Nitze's agreed to say a few words about her work here in New Jersey Peace Action. So Nitze, I'm going to throw it over to you. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, friends. It's good to be with you. Every year at this time, during our annual fall peace gathering, we would be sitting together, chatting, and enjoying refreshments. The pandemic has not made that possible for us this year. However, we are thankful that we can get together virtually to listen to a great speaker, talk about our work, and to think together how we can end the endless wars and create a more peaceful world. I have been a member of New Jersey Peace Action since my 30s, and I am in my late 70s now. That's a long time of many good memories. I remember taking the peace train to New York City with many of you to protest war or to march to the UN to urge the abolition of nuclear weapons. I remember taking the New Jersey Peace Action bus to Washington, D.C. to protest the war. I credit New Jersey Peace Action and you, my peace friends, for giving me hope and keeping me sane during the difficult years of the many US wars. As Jeff told you just now, we continue, the New Jersey Peace Action continues under Jeff's leadership and the boards to put a lot of time in lobbying our senators, our representatives, in holding vigils, and in having the frequent webinars that have been so well attended. All this work has been happening during the pandemic via Zoom and Skype. Now, let's look forward to 2021. New Jersey Peace Action has a lot of work to do. And actually, it will begin in the work, as Jeff told you, to the Back from the Brink campaign, which is the beginning of the end of nuclear wars. So we will work together to end the threat of nuclear war, to reduce the trillions of dollars that the US spends for nuclear weapons. We will seek endorsements from our representatives for a nuclear-free war. And as you can tell from what I just mentioned, from what Jeff said, we're going to have a full agenda as we move forward. However, the pandemic has created a serious problem for New Jersey Peace Action financially. Our two biggest fundraising events have been this fall gathering and also the spring dinner that we had every year. Because we have not had them and we have been meeting virtually, these events have not been the financial success that we're hoping to be, so we could meet our budgetary needs. Many of our members have been facing financial hardships, and when our members have less money in their bank accounts, they're less likely to donate to our organization. That hurts our ability to work for peace and to keep our doors open. That is why I am urging you today to help New Jersey Peace Action to continue our important work for peace and justice. If you can, please make a donation of $1,000 or $500. If you can't, consider giving $100 or another amount, maybe 10 or 15, an amount that you feel comfortable with. If you can, become a sustainer. Make a monthly or quarterly contribution. That helps us in order to plan our budget. Our goal is 25 new sustainers by the end of this year. Please help us to meet this important goal. And if you feel comfortable with this, please write in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. You can go there and write the amount you want to pledge. This will help other members to join in the generosity. And at the end of this program, go to njpeaceaction.org and click on donate. Again, it is njpeaceaction.org and click on donate. On behalf of New Jersey Peace Action Board, I thank you, my friends, for your generosity and for helping us continue our work for peace. Thank you.
You gave me things, 'cause you wanted something. You should have asked before you took my soul. Howling wolf was singing like a room was on fire, fire. You were there with some gasoline. Stand up straight, that's what it said. Stand up straight, watch it turn my head. Are you in your right mind? Are you in or are you out? Yeah, I'm reaching out from within, trying to find the real me. Stand up straight, that's what it said. Stand up straight, watch it turn my head. You gave me things, 'cause you wanted something. You should have asked before you took my soul. Howling wolf was singing like a guitar ringing. You were there with some gasoline. Stand up straight, that's what it said. Stand up straight, watch it turn my head. Stand up straight, stand up straight, stand up straight, watch it turn my head.
So we appreciate everybody and everything you've always done for us, and we know you'll do everything you can. So thank you. I am going to now bring up board member Donald Leach, and I'm going to bring back our keynote speaker, Andrew Bacevich, and just do this as well. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to say goodbye to the video screen for a little while. Don and Andrew, thank you. And Don, I'm just going to share the screen for a minute to put that document up that you're going to tell Andrew about right now.
Okay. Andrew Bacevich is an American historian who's been an outspoken critic of U.S. foreign policy. Educated at Princeton and West Point, he was a career Army officer serving in Vietnam prior to his becoming an academic. He is Professor Emeritus of International Relations and History at Boston University. He is the author, co-author, or editor of more than a dozen books, the latest of which is entitled The Age of Illusions: How America Squandered Its Cold War Victory. He's co-founder and president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. When we hosted his Quincy Institute colleague, Larry Wilkerson, who spoke at our spring event, we noted that as peace activists, we have a special appreciation and respect for members of the military who have the courage to recognize and speak the truth about militarism and the harm that it does. His articles appear in such diverse publications as The American Conservative and The Nation. You may have seen him on Bill Moyer's reports, or more recently on Democracy Now!, where he has been a persistent vocal critic of the US occupation of Iraq. Regarding nuclear policy, he has noted that there is no feasible scenario under which nuclear weapons could sensibly be used, and that keeping them entails many other risks. He is here today to give us his election reflections. We are going to take some questions after the talks. Please put your questions in the QA section. You'll find it at the bottom of your Zoom window. Please keep your questions short and to the point. Now, I would like to welcome Andrew Bacevich, and I have the honor to present him with the Hope Shapiro Bread and Roses Award.
Andrew, we're presenting this it's a award presented to you for revealing the truth about U.S. foreign policy and calling for diplomacy in place of endless war. And we'll throw it over to Andrew. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm very grateful for the chance to participate in this event with you. I have to say, I didn't realize that I was going to receive the award, so I'm deeply touched and gratified. I think my charge is to talk for something like 20 minutes, and then we're going to have a similar amount of time for Q&A. I don't know if I'll need the whole 20 minutes to talk, but if I don't, I think that's fine, because then we have more time for discussion. So this, my wife and I were out walking in the woods this morning, and just when we got back, our neighbor shouted at us that the big news, that Biden had gone over the top. Certainly, although I'm not a great fan of Biden, I'm no fan whatsoever of President Trump, and so the outcome has to be viewed as good news, I think, for our country. Many observers have said that this is the most important election that we've had in decades. I'm a little bit skeptical about that claim. And even though we've had good news today, I think we have to remind ourselves that there's no guarantee at this point that President Trump is going to do the right thing and to cooperate in having an orderly and peaceful transfer of power between now and January 20th. Certainly there's plenty of room for mischief on his part. And I actually pray that he will be wise enough to do the right thing, but we'll see. Now, In terms of observations with regard to the election, I'll tell you a couple things that that very much caught my eye, and I know I'm not the only one making these observations. But the first is that this thing has been narrowly decided. The polls that almost uniformly forecast a landslide of some kind were wrong again. They were wrong. The polls were wrong in 2016. The polls were wrong again in 2020. I don't understand the science of polling, so I don't understand why it was wrong, but it was wrong again. With significant implications, I think. True enough, President Biden won the popular vote. Of course, the popular vote is not determinative. But I think that more interesting than the fact that he won the popular vote is that President Trump won something on the order of 5 million more votes this time than he did in 2016. Round numbers, 70 million total votes that he received. More votes. Trump won more votes this year than Barack Obama won in 2008 when Barack Obama won the presidency. So that's an enormous number. And what that number says is that whatever I may think of Trump and his presidency, whatever you may think of Trump and his presidency, there are an enormous number of our fellow citizens that wish to see him serve for another 4 years. A related point is that even though Biden has prevailed and will become our next president, he has virtually no coattails. There's still some small chance that the the Democrats might win the Senate, but that's a long shot. I think it's striking that in winning the presidency, the Democrats actually lost seats in the House of Representatives. So Biden has no coattails, and as excited as all the media reporting is right now, and we watched it, my wife and I watched it for a few minutes on TV before I came online to meet you all. He has no mandate, really. He will no doubt claim to have a mandate. He will try to govern as if he has a mandate, but he doesn't have a mandate. The only significance of this election, I think, is that the majority of the American people decided that they didn't want 4 more years of Trump. It's not that they were signing up to some kind of a pivotal move to the left in American politics. And I think we need to be aware of that. Now, candidate Biden, certainly, he has a big agenda. I'm not going to go through all the different items in that agenda, but I mean, the phrase that he used repeatedly that struck me was that he vows to save the soul of America. That's Biden's language, save the soul of America. Of course, the soul of America is deeply divided. I mean, it's divided between right and left. I think it actually is divided in any number of other ways. We are, and I certainly agree with all the commentators who talk about the fact that we are today a deeply divided nation. And guess what? Biden's election is not in and of itself going to heal those divisions. He has already called for and will call for healing. And it's good that he says those things. But for us to fancy that the 70 million Americans who voted for Trump are now going to say, yay, Biden's my president, and I agree with his point of view, that simply is not going to happen. That said, this imperative of finding ways to heal the nation strikes me as of paramount importance. And healing the divide implies identifying some common ground. In other words, we have to find common ground to which both liberals, progressives, Democrats, on the one hand, can subscribe, but common ground that the 70 million people who voted for Trump can also subscribe. It seems pretty clear to me that there's a lot of things that we're not going to agree on. You know, left and right, we're not going to agree on abortion. We're not going to agree on gun ownership. We're not going to agree on what people like President Trump call socialism. We're not going to agree on climate change. So in my judgment, one of the important and immediate challenges that President Biden will face is to identify some specific arena where the people who voted for him and the people who voted against him can agree. And that if we can find agreement there, perhaps that becomes a basis for a broader conception of the common good that may over time, probably beyond this next presidency, that may over time heal the wounds that afflict us today. And I think that war may well provide that common ground. And this gets really to the point of my brief presentation. The Trump presidency has been a disaster in any number of ways. But Trump, for whatever reason, Trump has in fact been an opponent of endless war. Trump has been very forthright in arguing that the wars that have become so common, particularly since 9/11, but I think even since the end of the Cold War, simply do not serve the national interest. Now, Trump being Trump, he's not demonstrated the necessary constancy of purpose to actually end these endless wars. They continue through his presidency. But I want to suggest that his critique of war is one of the identifying attributes of what we might call Trumpism. And that therefore, if President Biden is serious about finding ways to heal the nation, and I take him at his word that he intends to do that, then it seems to me that President Biden should consider whether or not he can bring US policy, and by extension, bring his supporters, bring the Democratic Party to an approach to military policy that actually is less warlike. An approach to national security that emphasizes restraint, that treats force as a last resort, that doesn't necessarily buy into the notion that the Pentagon's budget has to increase year after year after year. I'm not saying that he's going to do that, and quite frankly, there's nothing in his record as a career politician that would suggest that he is anything remotely like a peace activist. But if he's serious about wanting to heal the nation's wounds, then it seems to me that this whole question of war and militarism offers the only issue that I can identify where the 70 million people who supported Trump might arguably find some reason to accept Biden as their president, and at least to some limited degree to make common cause with Biden and the Democrats. How likely is that to happen? Probably not too likely. You know, in the days to come, we will all pay close attention to who Biden announces as his Secretary of State, Defense Secretary, National Security Advisor, and so on. The scuttlebutt in the press suggests that he will fill those positions with people who most of us would define as hawks, but maybe not. You know, we'll just have to wait and see. My bottom line is I push back against the tendency to classify people who voted for Trump. This is to go back to Hillary Clinton's old charge. I push back against the notion to define them as deplorables. I think they are fellow citizens. I disagree with their political views, but I think we need to respect them. And I think that a willingness to look for ways in which the perspective of the Trumpers may align with the perspective of people of a more liberal or progressive persuasion, I think that's a worthy undertaking. And I believe that war specifically provides the issue where we can come together. So I thank you very much for including me in the event. I thank you very much for the Hope Shapiro Bread and Roses Award. And I very much look forward to any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're starting.
Very much, Andrew. I'm sorry, Don.
Yeah, we're starting to get some questions in the QA window. I just posted the information for the Montclair Book Center. They've been great supplying us with books for our past events. They have a number of copies of The Age of Illusions in stock, and hopefully some other Andrew Bacevich titles. I've been warned that their search function isn't 100%, so call them if you don't see what you're looking for. And I urge you to support this business. They've been doing a good job supporting us.
Hey, Don, if I may.
Yeah.
Because there's still questions building in the Q&A box. If I can ask a quick question of Andrew. What if 45 doesn't do the right thing? Now, I'm not really all that worried about it, but I'd love to hear your thinking on that. Let's say he does decide to somehow hold on to this office illegitimately. Are there remedies that you know of built in? I mean, besides obviously January 20th, you're no longer president of the United States. I guess we can just drag him out of there kicking and screaming.
I know. Wait. But don't pass over that so quickly, I would say. His term ends noon, I think, right?
Right.
Noon on January 20th.
Right.
Assuming that the elections at the state level are all certified, assuming that the Electoral College honors the outcome in each of the states, which I think is fairly certain, then as of January 20th, Biden is the constitutionally approved president. The guy who might be sitting in the White House is not the president. The guy who's sitting in the White House will no longer have the authority to, what? Initiate a nuclear war? Call the Pentagon and tell them to do something? And therefore the scenario which imagines that, and I'm not suggesting that it's an impossible scenario, but the scenario that imagines that as of January 20th, Trump is sitting in the Oval Office and refuses to leave, I must say my response would be, so what? Let him sit there. Turn the lights out. Turn off the telephone. Who cares? There will be a president, and we can put him in some other facility, and he will be able to assume the office and fulfill his duty. So I don't think that's a problem. Now, and this would be the height of recklessness. Trump summons his 70 million followers. Maybe not all 70 million. A couple million would be a problem. Armed. Come to Washington, protect me. Prevent this illegal election from going forward. That's going to be should that happen? I don't think it'll happen, but that's going to be a huge law and order problem. But it's a law and order problem. Again, in the chit chat leading up to the election, there, at least as I was listening to it, trying to understand, there was a lot of talk about, well, we'll have to call it the military. We're going to have to call the 82nd Airborne, and they're going to clear Washington. I myself would be absolutely, totally, and completely opposed to giving the regular military a role in deciding the outcome of a presidential election. I think that would put at great risk our tradition of an apolitical military. Again, I don't think the scenario is all that likely, but even if it occurs, it seems to me that the problem is one that law enforcement agencies are going to have to deal with. And also remember, the courts may well play a role in any protests mounted by the president, and at some point the Congress. It will be interesting over the days to come to see how many of Trump's supporters in Congress stick with him. And as it becomes more and more evident that the people have spoken, the people have rendered a judgment, and it's a judgment that is against Donald Trump. If you're a U.S. senator or a Republican senator, or you're a Republican member of the House, yeah, do you want to stick with him? No? Is that what you want written on your tombstone? That this is one of the guys who attempted to destroy the Constitution by keeping in office an illegitimate president? I have very little confidence in the Congress generally, and even less in the Republican Party. But at some point, even somebody like Lindsey Graham is going to want to distance himself from Trump. Let's see how that sort of plays out over the next week or 2 weeks. But at some point, both out of fealty to the Constitution and probably out of a sense of political self-preservation, I think that the Republicans in the House and in the Senate are going to abandon the president. And that'll be good when they do.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. I was just thinking of Lindsey Graham's name when you mentioned him. Our first question here we have from our board member, Peggy Monges. How do we reach out to President Biden to bring this nation into using diplomacy rather than war? If he surrounds himself with hawks, how do we proceed?
Well, I think you all keep doing what you're doing, right? There is a peace movement. I admire the peace movement. To be candid, I think the peace movement has not been terribly influential over the past, 30 years or so of our increasing willingness to use force around the world. But civic activism is important. And, as citizens, all we can do is what we do. I myself personally have never been an activist. It's just not my temperament. So what do? I write op-eds, that kind of stuff, write books. it's not clear to me that my activities in that realm have much influence, but that's my contribution. And if there is if this new administration, as it takes shape, begins to look kind of bellicose, I mean, I think the most immediate concern is a new Cold War with China, to lock us into a hostile relationship with China. I'll speak against it. I'll write against it. I'll do that without any expectation that it's going to make a difference. But by God, that's my definition of being a citizen in a democracy. And so we all just need to keep doing what we're doing, and then we'll see how it works out.
Okay, our next two questions are really right along the same line, so I'm going to combine them. One's from an anonymous attendee, the other from Patrick Colucci. If you had a chance to recommend to President Biden cabinet members, military advisors, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, who would you recommend? Of course, we would be wanting you to recommend people who are good on like peace issues.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really thought about that. And most of the people I know are not insiders. My guess is this is going to be an administration of insiders. My guess is that when we find out who are going to fill the big offices, national security, they're going to be people who worked for Obama, like one level below, who worked for Bill Clinton, 3 levels below. They are going to be, in all likelihood, establishment figures. That's why I don't have enormous hope that this administration will indeed chart a course more to my liking. So yeah, I mean, in my Quincy Institute, that I'm a part of, there are some younger people who are smart, informed, savvy, and that hold views that are probably pretty much in alignment with New Jersey peace action. Who am I talking about? I mean, the names don't mean anything in particular, I think, but Trita Parsi, Stephen Wertheim, Suzanne DiMaggio, others. I mean, you look up who's on our website. So there is a cadre of people out there who express views that probably, again, align with those of New Jersey peace action. And since I don't really understand what goes on in politics, maybe some of these colleagues of mine are actually going to receive active consideration. I don't think they're going to be considered to be Secretary of State, but maybe they could be considered to be Assistant Secretary of State for East Asia. We'll just have to see how it goes. There are people who New Jersey peace action would like. I just don't know if any of them will make it into the hierarchy.
Okay, our next question is from our member John Lawrence. If the U.S. makes major cuts in the military, does that threaten U.S. global political and economic hegemony?
Well, the problem here, I think, is that if we look broadly at the post-Cold War era, that began with the first Bush, continues through Clinton, the second Bush, Obama. If we treat that period, so it's 1989 to 2016, then we're looking for common themes. a common theme is a belief in the achievability of global hegemony, informed by a belief in American military supremacy. Now, I'm stating it crudely, but I think that really was the overarching goal of U.S. policy, beginning with the elder Bush and going all the way up to Obama. And you know, how was it that somebody as ill-equipped as Donald Trump could become president? A lot of answers to that question, but one of them is that effort to seize global hegemony through military means failed. And indeed, it is the 70 million people who voted for Trump who were among those who recognized the failure of American militarism. Whether or not the people who work for President Biden share that view, I think very much remains to be seen.
Okay, our next question from an anonymous attendee. Might common ground be achieved by finding areas that improve the quality of life in the nation, such as by strengthening aspects of the nation's infrastructure, schools, highways, bridges, internet, broadband, etc.? Could this sort of action create a situation where some successful cooperative efforts support other actions favoring peace, security, negotiation, rather than confrontation?
Well, you know, it's funny. I think when Trump was elected, remember there's all this, the phrase that was commonly used was the $1 trillion infrastructure program. And on the surface, it appeared that here was a place where Republicans, Democrats, and Trump could all find common ground. And it didn't happen. I mean, I'm not sure why it didn't happen, but I suspect the reason it didn't happen is because nobody wants the other guy to get credit for doing something good. And so we end up with this sort of logjam in Washington. But the answer to the question is sure, absolutely. I mean, I do think that there's a broad understanding that among the secondary effects of the misuse of military power over the past 30 years or so, one of the secondary effects is that we've allowed these domestic problems to just fester. And so a reallocation of resources, that doesn't mean, you zero out the Pentagon budget, but a reallocation of resources could make it possible, ought to make it possible, to agree on some domestic reform efforts, like infrastructure. So I would certainly sign up for that to happen. I don't know if it will happen, but it's a good idea.
Okay, next question is from our board member, Nitze Binder. You mentioned war can be a unifying issue. Trump talked about ending the wars, but he didn't do it and increased significantly the military budget. You think jobs is the more unifying issue? Number one, find jobs for those who would lose jobs because of clean air measures. Number two, cut the military budget to create jobs in other sectors, housing, healthcare, etc.
It's a good idea. I mean, what's the question? The problem is that, again, I'm hammering away at this reminder that there's 70 million people that voted for Trump. If you ask me what my opinion about climate change is, my opinion is it's an existential threat. And there should be a major shift in national security priorities to address that. That's me, personal, that's my opinion. Guess what? The 70 million people who voted for Trump, to a very large extent, think climate change is a hoax. So We have to find some other argument to bring them around. And I believe the argument relates to war itself. In other words, what I'm arguing is that, and I'll overstate the point, Trumpers are anti-war. And that, to the extent that what I just said is true, that then, it seems to me, provides a basis for finding common ground. We're never going to find common ground on abortion. We're never going to find common ground on quote unquote socialism, which people on the right are professed to be fearful of. But I'm repeating myself, and I apologize for that, but it does seem to me that given the magnitude of failure that has been caused by our reckless military policies, failures that are recognized in the camp of the Trumpers, that almost uniquely may provide a basis for in which the left and the right can agree on something, agree on an approach to national security policy that is less warlike, that emphasizes restraint, and that would, yes, probably entail some reduction in military spending. And we could have an interesting argument there, you know? If it's 740 billion, does that mean, what's a good number? Is 700 billion a good number? Or is 600 billion a good number? Well, you have a very interesting discussion on that. As long as you begin with recognizing that simply having the military budget go up, 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 up from one year to the next, that's a problem, that's not making us safer. It's not enabling us to exercise our freedom.
Hey, Don, if I may, just one sec.
Sure.
We're running short of the time we had allotted for Q&A, but there's quite a few questions. Andrew, I don't want to impose on you any more than I need to, but can you hang around another 5 or 10 minutes and just field a couple
Let's do
more
5,
questions?
okay? Is 5 okay?
5 is fine.
Okay.
Let's do 5. Our next question.
Thank you very much, by the way. Excuse me.
Next question is from our board member, Virginia Ahern. I'll recast her question a little bit. Could you please give us your reflections on the election of the first Black woman, actually biracial Black and Asian Indian woman being elected as vice president, and the significance of that?
So this is, I will annoy the questioner. I'm 100% in favor of equality. Racial equality, gender equality, all kinds of equality. I tend not to attribute all that much significance to diversity as a good in and of itself. Biden, I think, has signaled clearly, this is apart from the vice president, but Biden has signaled clearly that diversity is going to be a major consideration in filling the posts in his administration. A lot of signals that the defense secretary is going to be a woman, first woman ever. Some signals that the Secretary of State is going to be Susan Rice, who is both female and Black, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't care about that. What I care about is competence and character and good sense. I'll take Susan Rice as an example. I hope she's not Secretary of State because she's a hawk. She's an interventionist. Susan Rice was one of the principal architects of the Obama administration intervention in Libya to overthrow Colonel Gaddafi. Now, Colonel Gaddafi was a bad guy, but the consequences of that overthrow have been to turn Libya into, to bring it to anarchy. It was supposed to getting rid of Gaddafi was supposed to pave the way for democracy. It's it's paved the way for chaos. So, you know, so she's female, so she's black, but I don't think she's competent. And therefore, it seems to me that competence is what we want to see. And yeah, it'd be great. Otherwise, if you know, if the end, we wouldn't want to have the team end up being all white males. But I don't think achieving diversity should be the paramount objective. And I think there are some in the Biden camp who treat diversity as an end in and of itself.
Okay, we have time for one more, you think?
Yeah, one more.
Okay, our member Terry Seuss asks, what role do you see for NATO?
Well, my personal view is NATO has accomplished its mission. You know, NATO was created in 1949 at a time when Europe was weak and vulnerable, and the Soviet Union was strong and seemed to be aggressive. And we created this alliance led by the United States in order to defend Western Europe and also to provide a security blanket, you know, to reassure Western Europeans that they could undertake the rebuilding of post-World War II with some sense of confidence that the United States was going to protect them. Well, we don't live in 1949 anymore. The Soviet Union's gone. Russia is not a friendly country, but it's not the Soviet Union. Western Europe is rich. I think the population of the EU, it's something like 352 million, some number like that. Economically developed. So I think it's time for us to say to the Europeans, you're all grown up now, and it's time for you to take care of your own security issues. And to do that, not to do it like, and therefore we're leaving tomorrow, to do that because we're leaving in 10 years. We'll give you 10 years to figure out how you're going to defend yourself. And we do that not because we're mean and nasty, but because Europe today expresses our desire for what the world's supposed to look like. You know, we want the world to consist of, and I don't mean that there's imperfections, but we want the world to consist. We want the world to look like Europe. Democratic countries, prosperous countries, countries that live in peace with one another. You know, we're not worried about a war between France and Germany anymore. So in a sense, what we set out to do during World War I and then during the Cold War, we have achieved our mission. And it is an enormous success. And we mark that success by declaring mission accomplished. Because the situation, we would like to see the situation that exists in Europe also exist in Africa and in East Asia. So Europe is a demonstration of the plausibility of our grand strategy. So it's time for us to claim success and start heading home.
I don't know if you can hear the car horns in the background. They're having a little celebration outside here.
Well, that's good. That's good. Okay. So,
and if we could do virtual, you'd be hearing a lot of virtual applause if that was in any way possible. So,
Yeah.
Thanks very, very much. Don, thank you very much for handling it.
Thanks for having me for this event, and good luck to everybody.
There are some questions left in the Q&A box. We will save that, everybody, and get them over to Andrew and see if we can get answers from him. He's a busy guy, but we'll try to chase him down and get some more questions answered. Lev, I'm asking you to turn your video on. We have a fun part of the video of the event now. Excuse me. There we go. You folks were very responsive in the raffle. We really appreciate it. Many people took them. We've, because we're so technologically advanced, I say that with tongue in cheek. What we've done is taken everybody that's bought a raffle ticket, put them into a spreadsheet. If you bought 3 tickets, you get 3 lines, 30 lines, whatever it was. And we have this computer program that automatically goes in and chooses people from that name bank. and Lev Pinsky, a longtime supporter and member of New Jersey Peace Action, is going to run this piece. So Lev, over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. If you could show my screen share, please. I'm not sure if it's
Oh, I
being
am.
displayed. Yeah, it's not going to be a video. You don't want to see me. You want to see my screen.
You got it. Hang on one second. I think people are people seeing Lev's screen?
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're
I
good,
see.
Lev.
I see thumbs up. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we're good.
So first of all, the credit goes to my son Eugene actually for developing the software behind this. And let's go. So the first prize that we will draw for is a book, Hope for the Flowers by Trina Polis. And let's go. Okay, Brian
Lazewski.
It's a good thing I didn't try to pronounce your name. So we will see the history over here. So in the meantime, we'll proceed with the next one. And the next one is a bundle of peace books, including True Peace Work essays by Dalai Lama. And I will click the magic button again. Mary Gallagher.
Supporter Mary Gallagher. Congratulations, Mary. We'll be getting these things out to people shortly after the event. Congratulations, Mary. Okay.
Very well. Moving on. A $50 Barnes & Noble gift certificate is the next prize.
Phyllis, congratulations.
By the way, I should mention that in this big roulette wheel, each the sliver represents one ticket in the raffle. So just in case anyone is curious. And the next one is Nation Magazine Wines variety.
Nation Magazine wine. This is the one we all need very much.
Yes. All right. Let's try this. Judith.
Judith Arnold. Judith, congratulations.
A very timely gift. All right.
Ask Judith to turn on her audio, unmute herself.
Judith, you want to unmute yourself? Hang on one second. Hang on one second, Lev. Okay. All right, we are ready.
Okay. So next one is a beautiful set of umbrella, tote, and cashmere and silk scarf.
Donated by Nancy Tyani. It's a beautiful set. Thank you, Nancy. Eugene Square. Oh, long time. This is wonderful that Eugene won. Very supportive of this event. Great to see. Congratulations, Eugene.
And last
Lev,
but
excuse me, Lev, it's Judith. Could you please respin for the wine? Take my name off. I'd like it to go to someone else on.
You know what? Should we just keep going and then go back to Judith's
Okay,
prize?
either way would be.
okay, yeah. I was about to say that last but not least is the Samsung Galaxy tablet. It's Samsung A 10.1 inch screen tablet. And we have lucky person there who won again. And we can, if Judith insists, we can go back and try the Nation magazine wines variety. By the way, of course, the more tickets somebody bought, the more chances they have in being picked. So let's redo the wine variety. Here it goes.
Oh, Alyssa, good deal. Alyssa, congratulations. Going to, yeah, it really was. Thanks to everybody for their donations of prizes. And thanks to everybody for being here and for all your support of what we're doing here today. There's been a lot of people that worked really hard on this, and again, we thanked them up front. We thanked them during the event. Andrew Bacevich, I thought that was very eye-opening. And as I said, we'll get the additional questions we weren't able to cover to him forthwith and see if we can get some answers for him. We thank you for supporting us by being here today. Things moved along just fine, so we'll get you all out of here early, and that's always a nice thing too, especially when it's 70 degrees outside and we could always use some fresh air when we get the chance. Please go to NewJerseyPeaceAction.org and hit the donate button, and you will see a way to continue to support us. The organization is working hard for you every day. There's a lot of good volunteer work done. There's a staff that works really, really hard, is underpaid and worked very hard. And I'm not even talking about myself there. They really do work hard. Their life is around the issues that you folks care about. And my board is nothing but supportive of what we do here. So there's some great volunteers. We could use some help on this Back from the Brink project. We could use some help on the donation box. Please let me know. There's going to be a lot of work for us to do, especially in the coming year. I thank you all for being here. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity to serve you the way I do. I thank the board for allowing me to do that as well. Now, please go forth and make the world a safer, more sustainable place, all of you. Thanks again for coming, and we will see you again very soon. Thanks again.
A big boss man won't you hear me when I call? A big boss man won't you hear me when I call? Are you so big? You just tall, it's just about all. I'm gonna find me a boss man, gonna treat me right, working for that dollar, working all night, a big boss man. Won't you hear me when I go? Yeah. Are you so big? Are you just tall? It's just about put on your high heel sneaker, or put your wig hat on your head. put your wig hat on your head. Better wear some boxing gloves. Some fool you're gonna knock down. A big boss man. A big boss man. A big boss man, man. A big boss man, Mr. John Finnegan. A big boss man, Mr. Glenn Hubner. A big boss man, Mr. Andy Cohn. A big boss man, Mr. Stephen Weisberg. A big boss man, Mr. Karen Reiner.